FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's 6/24/19. And well, hey, it looks like maybe you shouldn't have gone away in May after you sold. You know that old saying, sell in May and go away. Well, you would have missed a major increase in gold, in Bitcoin, and, well, a decrease in interest rates. A lot has gone on. Even the stock market's higher, trading at near record levels. Well, as always, email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. Any questions? But don't forget, we've got our Bitcoin price contest going on. Name the price of Bitcoin on July 20th. Be the closer than me, which probably ain't going to be too hard now. My number is 6650. Get your entry in by July 14th, and you will win 40 pre-1965 quarters. They're 90% silver. That's the winner, the grand prize winner. The next 5 runner-ups each get 1 pre-1965 quarter, 90% silver. And if we get over 1,000 entries, I will up the grand prize to 100 90% silver quarters. There'll be a combination of Washington and Standing Liberty quarters. I think they're Standard Liberty quarters, if I remember correctly. In any event, they'll be 90% silver. That's the important thing. Email again, kl@kerrylutz.com. Well, John Rubino is with us. John, I know you're having a happy Monday because the price of gold has well exceeded $1,400 the ounce. It's up $15.10. It was up a little higher at one point, and right now it's trading on the bid 14.10. I'd like to see 14.14. Silver up a puny 6 cents at 15.39 the bid. So what does it all mean?
Well, Kerry, it means finally we can stop talking about that 1360 to 1380 resistance level that has smacked gold back down 5 times in the last 5 years, because it blew through that, as it had to eventually. And now there's no real resistance in front of it now until you get into the high 1400s or low 1500s. So it's a nice run. Good to see it. And finally, the stackers are being vindicated a little bit, because it's been a really brutal 5 years for people who thought precious metals deserve to be higher in a world this uncertain and this increasingly indebted. All the charts that you look at that point to common sense for precious metals, like the U.S. government debt, which gold used to track, and then the debt kept on going and gold started going down, so they diverged, and a bunch of other measures like that. The increasing leverage in the world should lead to higher gold prices, and it didn't for a really long time. And now finally, people are spooked enough. Maybe it was the Iran thing now that we might be at war in the Middle East, and maybe it's the Fed cutting interest rates or promising to cut interest rates after raising interest rates for a while that is finally having an effect on gold prices in U.S. dollars. But whatever, precious metals are rocking now. So there are a lot of different angles to explore now that we're back in a positive trend for precious metals. And one of them is the gold-silver ratio. Mm-hmm. Gold is way up, and silver is up, but not up nearly as much in percentage terms as gold, which means the gold-silver ratio has just exploded up into the 90s now. That's right. The highest it's been in a lot of years. And every time it's gotten anywhere near this level, the nearly immediate result was a precious metals bull market in which silver outperformed gold dramatically. In other words, probably the fundamentally real level, true level for gold and silver is maybe in the 40s. In other words, gold ought to be about 40 times as valuable as silver. So when it gets to double that, usually silver silver goes up twice as fast as gold for a while, which brings the gold-silver ratio back to that 40-ish range. So if history is any kind of a guide, silver is now the thing to be in precious metals, although gold is still going to go up, but silver will go up faster. Another thing that we should have been paying attention to and still should is that this whole, resistance at 1360 and gold languishing and it's not doing anything, that's a US dollar story. That's an American story.
Correct.
In the rest of the world, gold has been rocking for quite some time. And it's at record levels in, for instance, Australia, near record levels in Canada, very high, almost record levels in Europe. So gold is already back in a global bull market. It just didn't seem that way because the US dollar has been relatively strong compared to the other fiat currencies of the world. And that has, because we measure precious metals in our local currency terms, that has made it seem like it was languishing. But it's actually been going up around the world. So if the U.S. is going to now join the rest of the world in monetary easing, then you would expect gold to join gold in terms of the other currencies of the world in a bull market here, and that's what we're seeing. So none of this stuff is a surprise, but the timing is surprising. It just took way longer than it should have. But of course, as I said, if you're in Australia, it didn't take so long. If you're in Canada, it didn't take so long. It's been happening for quite a while.
Yeah.
So good times.
Yeah, the only currency that made any difference, though, was the U.S. dollar because of the COMEX and the way that gold gets priced. But as point of fact, like we say, it's been in a bull market, but not in the U.S. And now we're actually seeing, John, higher highs and higher lows. And that is music to a gold bug's ears, even though I don't really consider myself to be a gold bug at all. I just have certain beliefs about it as being a superior way to hold value, to store value, compared to everything else that is out there, right?
Yeah. If we call ourselves sound money advocates,
yes,
that sounds less tinfoil hat than gold bug, right? But I'm
like
definitely
my tinfoil
a sound money advocate. Yeah.
I like my tinfoil hat, though. It reflects the sun, especially here in Florida, where it's been so freaking hot. It's like I'm almost beginning to believe in climate change again. It's gotten so hot here, but yeah, that's a story for another day. I don't want to get into that because then the trolls will be out in full force. But
remember, Kerry, your tinfoil hat does not stop Siri from eavesdropping on you. Okay, so it won't protect you from Google.
Yeah, well, we need all the protection we can get from those SOBs, John. Yeah. They've really hit bottom, and they have no business trying to influence political outcomes. They just don't. They are common carriers. They're no different than Verizon. When you dial a number, you don't have to pass a political purity test to receive a call or to make a call. When you ship something in FedEx, they don't give you a political test to find out if you're a Trump supporter or not. And that's the way it should be on social media. Common carrier, public utility. Your electric company doesn't say, it's an alternate side of the street. This week we're gonna transmit to Democrats. In 2 weeks we'll give Republicans electric for only 2 hours a day. They can't do that, and social media is no different.
Well, I'm going to take you can agree that they're too powerful, and that anybody who's too powerful tends to abuse their power, and still be kind of sympathetic to their situation. Because if they just go laissez-faire and say, okay, we're just a platform, you say whatever you want to on the platform, we're just providing the forum, okay, so we're not responsible for your speech, then they get blamed for all the crazy speech that happens, and they get called in front of Congress, and Congress wants to know why they let the Islamic militants behead people on YouTube, and et cetera, et cetera. But if they try to do anything about that stuff, inevitably there are inequities in how they implement censorship, because that's basically what it is. They're being forced to go in and say, all right, you can't behead people, and you can't talk about politicians' physical appearance, and you can't, and so they have to parse all this stuff and figure out what's acceptable speech and what's not. And that's a position that they're completely unqualified for. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, should he be the national censor? Of course not.
None of them should.
That's a crazy idea. Yeah.
None of them should.
But we're kind of telling him he has to be. And then we're attacking him for what he tries to implement when we tell him he has to, protect vulnerable groups because of the free speech that's been weaponized and everything. This is a brand new technology. We don't know how to use it yet. And so it's a mess no matter how you look at it. And it's not clear how we sort this out, because we don't want the private sector to be censors, right?
Right, but they're acting exactly
there are also
function.
categories of speech that we consider to be yelling fire in a theater or something like that, that are clearly illegal and libelous and everything. And it's not clear how we sort it out.
Not so much like they're censoring Christian speech, right? Christians that are on there. No, I'm not a Christian. It doesn't apply to me, but that's totally wrong. The country wasn't founded that way, that you could discriminate against people with certain viewpoints. And look, there should be very limited instances where they're allowed to monitor or remove people from their sites. And there needs to be very specific rules. Right now, a minor violation of terms of service, their so-called TOS, can get you kicked off for life. And, and they seem to be applying it unevenly, right? Totally.
Across the political spectrum.
They shouldn't be applying it, period, because under Section 230 of the Federal Communications Decency Act, they're strictly a platform, and they're not liable for anyone's postings of anything up there, not liable under the libel laws, anything like that. So the fact is that if they were, then they could be sued for libel by all these people who get stuff posted. If they want to screw around, then they should lose that exemption from libel laws, because they're now curated content. They're not just a posting platform. It's a big difference. You and I curate. You and I are curators.
But okay, that's kind of what I'm saying. That if nothing seems to work perfectly, no matter where they end up on the spectrum, from just a laissez-faire platform all the way over to curated speech, which is censorship, there is no place where they aren't being attacked by somebody. And I feel kind of sorry for them, because they basically just want to maximize ad revenue, right? They don't care about any of the rest of this stuff. I mean, they have political views of their own, but they would be happy to allow people with the opposite political views a free reign on their platforms, as long as those guys generate lots of ad revenue. That's really what they want.
I think the opposite is taking place on YouTube right now. They're getting rid of all these independent content creators, censoring the right. And as a result, they said that profits have greatly declined on YouTube. I think they're ideology first and profit second at this point. And that is a really dangerous position for them to be in, and for them to put the country in. They're becoming the arbiters of politically correct thought. And that's what they're about. Profits are second. They have this stakeholder thing, and they've got to influence the outcome of elections now, or they feel they're not doing their job. Dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Well, see, this is concentration of power. What happens when somebody has too much power? Inevitably, they start thinking that their ideas ought to be translated into policy in the world, right? And so we're seeing that with big new media. But
it's not so new anymore, but it certainly is bigger than ever.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that there isn't a perfect solution for something like this. With most of the big issues in the world, there's no single perfect solution, right? Abortion and immigration in the Middle East. All there is some kind of a really painful compromise in a democracy where nobody really gets most of what they want. But they get enough to keep them from taking to the streets. And that's usually the best you can hope for with big issues. And this fits into that category, because this is a completely unprecedented kind of public forum.
Mm-hmm.
And we will probably never come up with a perfect answer where everybody's happy.
No.
But yeah, I agree that censorship is being applied unevenly right now, and that has to be addressed somehow. Otherwise, a lot of people lose their First Amendment rights as they now exist in social media. You can go ahead and say what you want to from a soapbox on the street corner, but if you can't say that same thing on Facebook or YouTube, then your freedom of speech is being abridged, and we have to find a way to deal with that. But we aren't going to find a perfect way. We're never going to end up happy with this. That's all I'm saying. It's always going to be kind of a mess and kind of chaotic and kind of in flux. So it's yet another battle that we have to fight forever, and we'll never have a good solution. But that's the only way you can do it in a democracy where good people have honest disagreements.
That's
about what's
okay.
right and wrong. And,
that's what we're supposed to have. Honest disagreements,
yes.
But they're making it harder and harder, and the left is making it harder and harder to have an honest disagreement rather. And I don't say that the right isn't at fault either. Certainly there's responsibility, but the virulent, violent left, the emergence of it, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, all of these organizations, which under any other circumstances would probably be designated terrorist organizations, that's where Google's heart is at. That's where Facebook's heart is at. And they're fine with it. So we have to all fight back and not accept it because, they're going to come for you and me eventually here. John, you know that.
Yeah. Once it becomes okay for social media to censor according to the political beliefs of its owners, then you got a real problem on your hands. And we are, I agree, we're kind of there right now. But I think no matter how it shakes out, that voices on the fringe, where, the voices that make other people really mad are always going to have problems, or are always going to feel like they're being mistreated because there's no solution.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Today's show is brought to you by U.S. Gold Corp. U.S. Gold Corp is a U.S.-focused gold exploration and development company advancing high-potential projects in Wyoming and Nevada. U.S. Gold Corp has consolidated a district on Nevada's productive Cortex trend and is advancing the Copper King project towards production in Wyoming, led by a team of prolific company builders and renowned explorers, including Dave Mathewson, who is directly responsible for several major Nevada gold discoveries. U.S. Gold Corp is well-capitalized and has an extremely tight share structure with less than 20 million shares outstanding and trades on the NASDAQ, a major exchange under the ticker symbol USAU. To learn more, go to usgoldcorp.gold. That's usgoldcorp.gold.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Hopefully we'll find a solution that works for everybody, John, and everybody's rights will be protected and respected. But, it's a little bit disheartening to see the attacks because we've had other media before evolve, and we didn't have these spats, these confrontations. Anyways, so we didn't attack Iran. That was a surprise, huh?
Wow, what a relief! That has the potential to turn into something just horrendous over there, because if the flow of oil gets blocked, for instance, which is one possible outcome of a war with Iran, and oil goes to $100 a barrel or $150 a barrel or whatever, that's the kind of shock that this financial system can't handle. So you would see a massive bear market in equities and a torrent of money flowing into safe haven assets, which, good for the gold bugs, good for bond bulls, but really bad for the world in general because we're so highly leveraged. Remember, we got going on $1 quadrillion of derivatives out there that nobody really understands. A lot of them, though, are attached to oil and to interest rates and to currencies. So if you throw chaos into those three sectors, which would happen if we had a big, broad Middle Eastern war that interrupted the flow of oil, you could easily see another 2008 kind of situation where some big derivatives players like Deutsche Bank, they're already almost bankrupt. This would push them over the edge. So you see the biggest bank in Europe crash and burn, probably pulling down some high profile hedge funds, which in turn would pull down some big American banks. And we'd be back where we were in 2008 when the world's governments had to pull out a 10 or $15 trillion rescue of the financial sector, except that the problems are much bigger now because debt has almost doubled in that time. And so they would have to come up with even more make-believe money and dump it into the system. And the impact of that is completely unknowable. If we would have massively negative interest rates across the board, and we would have the derivative sector blowing up in a lot of different countries, and currencies fluctuating against each other in fairly unpredictable ways. You could say that it would spike the dollar. That's one logical thing. We start a war and the dollar goes up because everybody else is more impacted by the war than we are. That would be bad for us. Our multinationals won't be able to participate in the global economy if the dollar goes way up from here. So lots of bad things could happen if there's a Middle Eastern war, and Trump pulled back at the last minute. And there are so many interesting angles here too, because one is, he's hired a bunch of warmongers to run his foreign policy, and now he's bad-mouthing them publicly. He said that if it was up to John Bolton, we'd be at war with the whole world. And that's exactly the right attitude to take with John Bolton. He seems like a psychopath, and the idea that Iran is causing the trouble over there. We got to remember they are completely surrounded by our military bases in the Middle East.
Right.
And we pulled out of the agreement with them that they were, by all accounts, more or less adhering to. And we're flying drones all around their borders. And we've got warships right near in their offshore waters. So we're the ones who are picking this fight. And if they shoot down a drone or something, or are accused of putting mines on a Japanese oil tanker, which makes no sense. And we're still the ones standing right there picking the fight. And I think the world recognizes that because nobody else wants to go in on this with Trump. He can't get any allies to participate in this war. So he was smart to pull back. And a lot of his instincts, I got to say, I'm agreeing with. He's not out there bombing people aggressively, and he's not actively intervening in other countries, although this whole pick a fight with Iran thing could still blow up on us. But the fact that he didn't start a big war this weekend is a good thing, and he ought to get props for it. He had a choice, and he had a lot of advisors telling him to do something, and he decided not to do it. What's interesting is he also had the corporate media telling him to do it too. If you look at CNN or even MSNBC, which is a left-wing news outlet, they're all for war with Iran.
Yeah, what's that about? You get that? How come they're so warmongering?
Yeah, well, it's because they're owned by the military-industrial complex. At the highest point of their ownership chain is a defense contractor or somebody else who makes money off of war in some way. And remember, a war raises the viewership of these news outlets. So even if you leave aside the fact that the companies that own them make money directly by selling weapons, ratings go up if there's a war. So they've got that incentive too.
So everybody
you really
wins.
Need to take what these.
Everybody wins except the people fighting it, right?
Yeah. There's this huge constituency out there for endless war.
And then even the people fighting it like it, because if there's peace, you don't really move up in the ranks. You move up in the ranks when there's war, when your sergeant gets shot and you step into his role and then you get promoted and so on, right? I mean,
well, I tell you though, if I was a soldier, I don't know if I would like that dynamic very much. Even though I got a promotion, then I'm the guy who just got shot, right?
Yeah, well, but
I'm in the shoes of the guy who just got shot, and that doesn't seem like
they don't look at it that
for an
way.
Extra $10,000 a year or whatever.
No, it's the moving up in the ranks. I mean, everybody wants to be a general. So, but yeah, like the captain gets shot, the lieutenant takes his place. That's it's a thinning of the herd, and it's good for career advancement. It's like, I don't think they want it, but I think there's an incentive built in there. If you want to move ahead, you got to shoot people
and Kerry, then there are all these new weapons that we're developing. There's a whole new generation of weapons coming online, the hypersonic missiles and autonomous drones and things like that, and submarines with nuclear weapons, but no crew. They're just run by AIs.
And lasers, ground-based, air-based, space-based. It's a little frightening, but hey, we've done a lot of stupid things and somehow we've managed to survive. I don't know how. So hopefully we'll keep doing it.
Hey, but there's no guarantee. Once they unleash those things, there's no way to know how this all plays out.
Absolutely.
But hey, Kerry, have you seen the UFO stuff that's come out lately?
Yeah, I have seen it. Not quite sure what to make. There, the Navy, evidently, naval pilots, aviators run into these UFOs like you and I see. Well, I don't know, radar traps on the highway.
Yeah, this is stuff that normally stuff like this comes from people who you've never heard of and you will never hear of again, and so you can kind of discount it. But
basically nuts.
That's what it seems like. But this is coming from the government. They've got actual fighter pilots and actual supervisors of these programs going on news shows and saying, this thing did stuff that is physically impossible for us to replicate. And we don't know what it is and we don't know what it's doing, but they're all over the place. That's what these guys are saying. So I wonder how much of the new weaponry that's coming online now has the whole extraterrestrial thing in mind.
After them, huh?
Maybe we're gearing up for something that is going to be a lot crazier than what we're talking about here.
War of the Worlds,
financial crisis, Middle East war. That's nothing compared to. Yeah,
isn't it pretty amazing? We could be in this situation.
It's a crazy world.
Yeah.
I want to just have a garden and grow vegetables, I think.
Yeah, well, you're in the right part.
As long as I remember where I buried my gold and silver coins, the world can just do whatever.
Yeah, as long as you're alive to go dig them up,
Yeah.
It's not going to do much good. But, I'm always hoping for the best. We've been on the precipice for our entire lives, John, and we haven't done it yet. So hopefully that trend will continue. A trend is the trend is your friend until the end, right?
Yeah. So. The problem is in the gold bug community, we're usually about trend reversals, right? Where the trend is going to stop and it's going to go the other way pretty soon, and you better be ready for it. So, I tend to think that anything that's been happening for a while is going to change. And that's not a good thing when you're picturing geopolitics, because we've been relatively peaceful for such a long time.
Yeah, really. Well, let's hope it continues. Hey, I don't know if you noticed, but palladium has been going off the skids as well. Palladium, the bid is $15.16. It's up $32 today. Platinum is even finding a little bit of life. Platinum has become like silver, to palladium's, which has become gold. But anyways, palladium trading higher than gold. Remarkable. Anyway, make sure you check out John's site, dollarcollapse.com. Read his latest article. John, we'll talk to you next week. You be well.
Thanks, Kerry. You too.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.